And the full-time whistle has been blown. Aberdeen have done it at long last. Maybe a bit of relief to go with the celebrations for Jimmy Tilleen. The Palestinian hero is Ode Dabat, who knocked it in after Craig Gordon saved the effort from Jack Milne. A long afternoon at Hampden Park. Aberdeen eventually see themselves over the line. Hearts finished it with 9 men after Cammy Devlin and Michael Steinbender were sent off. But it's Dabat's day at the National Stadium. Shanklin got one for Hearts to equalise initially after a Craig Gordon own goal, after Papagay had rattled the crossbar with a header. But it's all smiles for Ode Dabat, and Aberdeen eventually avoiding what would have been the penalty kicks. Dabat knocking it in from close range, reacting quickest. And after extra time, it's Aberdeen who can look forward to the Scottish Cup final on the 24th of May, where they will face either St Johnstone or Celtic. Full-time score after extra time. Heart of Midlothian 1, Aberdeen 2.
Thanks, Rory. Well, you can see just there what that means to these Aberdeen players. Ode Dabat celebrating there as the match winner to book their place in the final. Michael, was that the correct result overall? Did Aberdeen deserve to go through?
Doesn't really matter, does it? You know, the result is all that really counts here. I mean, and to talk about who deserved, Aberdeen weren't great today, but they've got the job done in the end. The second sending off doesn't really alter anything, but it was harsh. I don't think that's a second yellow card personally for Cammy Devlin, but the performance wasn't brilliant, but they've got the victory, and you can see how excited and happy the supporters are, because getting through to this cup final is all that counts here at the semi-final. And
fair play to Ode Dabat, because when Craig Gordon did spill that ball, he was in the right place at the right time, which is what you want from your forwards.
Absolutely, yeah, you couldn't ask him more of them, but you know what, they persevered, they kept trying to get the ball wide, getting crosses in, and yeah, listen, that's the type of moment you want right at the end of the game. A striker on his toes, and maybe when the centre backs are on their legs, on their knees, they're tired. Again, Jamie McGrath actually did quite well out wide. I mean, it's not the best cross really, but I think Craig Gordon does as well as he could.
No question of offside there.
No, it's not
perfectly
offside.
onside.
No, it's absolutely fine.
Well, Polvara is the one that actually makes it in the end here in terms of, you know, being able to get that touch on the ball. Or is it Jack Milne? I can't actually see, but I mean, the point is that as Andy said, the cross from McGrath isn't brilliant, but plenty of bodies in there, and it was one of the other, you know, few occasions where they were able to get an overload and work a bit of space in the wide areas. That, you know, for the life of me, I just don't understand why they continually started to invert the wingers, get the fullbacks higher. You wanted to get many bodies as possible out in the wide areas and try and isolate the wing backs, and you just didn't do it enough in the second half and in extra time.
I thought Dante Polvara actually
made
helped.
A big difference.
Yeah, didn't he? He drove the midfield forward. I think a couple of minutes before that, he was a great drive and run. He did it when he first came on the first half of extra time, brought the team forward, just gave something a little bit different that maybe Aberdeen needed.
And that's exactly what we were discussing, wasn't it, at half-time and then also at full-time before the added on time. Somebody like Polvara just getting hold of the game, getting the ball and driving at Hearts. Yeah,
well, driving forward from the middle of the park makes a big difference, because you're basically passing, players, and then you're causing an issue with somebody else that's perhaps sitting in a back line. They've then got to come and confront you. And I thought on a few occasions Polvara did that well. He's a good, strong, athletic player, Dante Polvara, and I like him a lot, and he definitely made a difference. And obviously for Dabat, he's got huge celebrations in Aberdeen tonight.
Certainly enjoying themselves, aren't they? And quite rightly so, because it wasn't easy in spells of this match, but the Aberdeen players absolutely lapping it up with their fans. What will this mean to the fans, Andy, getting back here for a showpiece occasion? It's been a long time since they had their ribbons on this trophy.
Of course. Listen, it's going to be whoever's going to be in the final. It's going to be a great occasion, something to look forward to, but hopefully this is a little bit of a confidence booster for the team as well. There's still third to play for. There's lots to play for in the league, so I'm hoping they can kind of kick on from here. Hopefully a couple of days rest. They'll need it, but no. But listen, the next 3, 4, 5 weeks are huge, leading up to obviously the final. But trying to get that third spot's massive.
Andy's right in terms of the semi-final, challenging for third. There's a lot here for Aberdeen to look forward to for the rest of the season. Had they been knocked out, then it would have been massively disappointing. As obviously Dave Cormack, I'm sure, is going to be enjoying himself as well. But when you look at the season in its totality, when it finishes here, there is going to be a lot of positives for Aberdeen. Jimmy Tilleen's come in, he had that incredible start. Yes, there was a dip, but now you can start to see them coming back into it, still challenging for third. They have a Scottish Cup final, potentially they can obviously win the trophy as well. So that season as a whole is a big success, whereas if they got knocked out today on what would have been the back of a poor performance, it really does alter the perception of things, and it may well have taken a bit of steam out of them for the challenge for third as well.
And Aberdeen, can the fans certainly take a little bit of confidence, positivity in the fact they got the job done today, but there's still a lot more, there's still a lot better that team can play.
Of course. I think when Hearts went down to 10 men, we thought, oh, shades of last weekend. We thought, how are we going to break them down? But plenty of questions were asked. Yes, I had to go to extra time, but I still think there's plenty in this squad. Now there's boys coming back from injury. Hopefully we'll see more of the likes of Danny Bolvara. Daba can still do a good job. Listen, I think even getting Fletcher Boyd on the pitch at times as well, but it's a very, very big squad, and he's going to have to use as many players as possible to get themselves into that third space.
You see Jimmy Tilleen as well getting involved in those celebrations. You don't really see much emotion from him, do you? Either up nor down when it comes to that, but he's enjoying this. It just proves, really, doesn't it, just how significant an achievement this is for his squad. Yeah,
absolutely. There's a few smiles cracking out there. He's a very calm and cool, collected figure, Jimmy Tilleen. It's his first season, as I was just saying before, is already bubbling along and building towards a crescendo here, and regardless of what happens in the cup final, I do think that they can look back on things and feel like there's been progress here. It's a good squad that Aberdeen have got, a big squad as Andy spoke about there, and with a few fine tuning and a few fine adjustments there, they can really kick on, I think. And I couldn't agree more with Danny Povara. Always liked him, think he's a good player, and the more game time he can get building up to the cup final, I think the better for Aberdeen.
Well, let's get some reaction from the victorious Aberdeen camp then, because Graham Shinney and the goal hero Odi Daba are with Amy Irons.
Odi, Graham, you have done it. You're over the line into the Scottish Cup final. How does it feel?
It's very, very good feeling. I'm very, very happy to be in the final. We deserve this. We play so good. We deserve this. So happy, so happy.
You came on, you got the winner. How did you feel just when you saw the ball hit in the back of the net?
It's very, very nice feeling. Really, I cannot describe this feeling. When the ball inside the net and the fans shouting, it's really, really good feeling. I'm so happy.
The smile says it all, Graham, as Odi was saying. The fans, you can see how much it means to them. For you, it's another final. How much of a relief was that, given what was a really testing game out there?
Naturally, when the goal comes that late on, it's a big relief. Penalties can be a little bit of a lottery, so we didn't want it to go to that. We wanted to push as much as we can going into the later stages, and we did, and we managed to create an opening, and thankfully Ode was there to put it in, and you can't explain the feeling when that happens. It's one of the best you'll ever feel, and it's another step closer.
It certainly is, and there is so much to play for this season. You've obviously got that place in the final, there's still third, European football, all of that. Does it really feel like that momentum is building at what is the perfect time in the season? Yeah,
I guess so. We're playing well, we've got our style and what we want to do, and that's important to us, and that's what carried us through the end of the bad run. We're starting to pick up again. We're into the final now, but we've got to focus now on Hibs, which is a massive game for both teams.
Will there be some celebrations? I know you've got a lot of work ahead over the next few weeks, but Odi, some celebrations?
For next week, if we win, yes, big celebration, because as the captain said, it's really a massive game. So now we have to focus for the league game.
Odi, Graham, congratulations, well done, thank you.
Welcome back to Hampden, where Aberdeen have beaten Hearts to progress into the Scottish Cup final. in 35 days' time. I was just doing the math in my head there. May the 24th is the date for that, but in 35 days' time. As a source of entertainment, that first half was absolutely cracking, wasn't it, as far as a cup semi is concerned?
Yeah, it was. It was really good. I mean, obviously, for me, Hearts were the better side, but obviously Aberdeen were very threatening. We saw it on a number of occasions with the pace of Morris and Keskinen, which led to that wee scare that Hearts had with Morris running through, and then the other one with Keskinen that got Steinbrenner sent off. But look, these are things that are potentially going to come up in the game, and I thought the thing that we didn't know was whether Hearts were going to be aggressive enough to be able to get up the park, and they did do that. They were good in that first half, and the second half was a completely different kettle of fish, of course, but they defended well. I mean, Hearts can be happy with their performance, but like we were just talking about performance, Aberdeen, did they deserve it? At the end of the day, Hearts are not in the final, and there's not much solace in the fact that, okay, we performed quite well. It's all about getting into that final, and congratulations to Aberdeen. They're the ones that have managed to do it.
And that's the thing, when you end the match with 9 men on the park, 2 red cards to the players, and we heard after the game that Mike Garrity, the assistant coach at Hearts, also received a red card in the aftermath of full time. So, when you end the game with 9 men, you're always giving yourself an uphill task. But let's go back to the first goal, Andy, because Michael's just mentioned their Hearts started really well, but it was Aberdeen that managed to take the first real opportunity.
Absolutely. First 15 minutes, Hearts were on top. Aberdeen couldn't really get out their own half. First corner of the game, listen, we've spoken about it. Hearts' 4 biggest players on the pitch along the 6-yard box, but allowing Pape Gay, biggest man in the park, to get a run. Free header, you just can't do that. You can't allow that. You can't allow him to have 3 or 4 yards. A free header like that, unfortunately, comes back off Craig Gordon, but it just gave Aberdeen a lift, and ultimately, obviously, the sending off is the turning point, because then it's an uphill battle for Hearts. I actually thought Hearts defended extremely well as a team. They did. Take my hat off to them. They were excellent in that sense. So then Aberdeen had to take the game to them. Again, shades of last weekend. How can they do that? Was it any different? Not really. I still felt the tempo was still slow. Michael said it, too many touches. It wasn't until probably extra time when we had that little bit with Ockles and Shinnie in the cutback for Daba's shot. Was probably the first little bit we thought, actually, that's what they need to do. But they hadn't done it enough, But ultimately, the result is all that matters.
Yeah, absolutely, especially when a place in the final is at stake. After that, though, Hearts did equalise in the first half. So Aberdeen leading. This ball comes in, and Lawrence Shanklin making no mistake. Yeah,
and I mean, look, Lawrence Shanklin has been playing at the top of the diamond, and there's been too often that he's not been able to get into these positions. And look, it's a great finish. You know that Lawrence Shanklin's a brilliant finisher, and that's my concern and my issue with the way that Hearts have played. So much of the time, Lawrence Shanklin's not been in those sorts of areas. He managed to do it in that instance. We've already touched on the fact about Canuster should be more commanding and going and winning that initial ball, and Graham Shinnie can't get dragged in there. He has to hold his position there for me. But when it drops to Lawrence Shanklin, you know that regardless of the fact that the season's not been brilliant for him, you fancy him. You think he's going to score a goal, and he did. So well done to Lawrence Shanklin being able to get that goal, because his confidence is clearly not going to be sky high.
Yeah, absolutely. So 1-1 is how it finished after regulation time. Aberdeen winning it in extra time. Let's now hear from their manager, Jimmy Tilleen. He's with Amy Irons.
Jimmy, congratulations. You have secured your spot in the Scottish Cup final. How does it feel?
It feels really good. You see the emotions among the players and the fans after, and of course it's a lot of good emotions right now.
Is there a bit of relief, because despite obviously having the numerical advantage, Hearts did not make it easy for you at all, obviously needing extra time to get over the line?
No, Hearts started the game really well, and we were under pressure. Of course, the red card helps us to calm down a little bit, and I think we were patient. It's difficult when they defend so well as they did, and they always have the transition or set play. So we have a lesson from last week to learn. But we were more patient, and of course, when you score in the last minute, everybody's happy, of course. And I think the players did it really well, because it's not easy when the spaces is so small, and you have to win because you have one and then even 2 players extra. But the patience was there, and finally we scored that goal.
Yeah, it was difficult when Hearts obviously went to that back 5, and it took a lot of time to eventually break them down in the end. You say how much it meant to the players and the fans. We saw those scenes at the end. How much does it mean to you, given that you're in a cup final and there's still so much to play for as well this season, potentially that third spot, European football, things really picking up after that kind of sticky spot earlier in the season?
Yeah, I think it's been an exciting season so far. Like a really good start, and then a really challenging part of the season. And now we are quite stable again. And of course, now we have secured the final, and now we have to focus again because it's really difficult games left and really important ones. So we have to put all energy now to the last 6 games, and we start with the league games against Hibs.
It will be either Celtic or St Johnstone in the final. You'll be watching that one closely tomorrow, I'm imagining.
Probably, so it's going to be exciting to see. So, yeah, we have to enjoy today now, and then of course we have a really important game now at home against Hibs. But first we have to focus and enjoy today.
Jimmy, congratulations. Well done.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Do you think he'll be going for a night out in Aberdeen tonight, Jimmy Tilleen? Think he's that type of guy?
I'm not sure.
He doesn't look like that type of guy, I'll be honest. I think just probably sitting at home, wee glass of red, I can imagine. He looks like that type of man.
It won't be a slow Sunday on the sofa taking in the game tomorrow.
But
well, it could be, but just not anything to do with tonight.
Exactly. No, it was great to hear from him there and just actually express a little bit of joy, because I mentioned it earlier, he doesn't get too high and he doesn't get too low, but actually seeing him like that, it proves to the players exactly the impact this will have on the club.
Of course, I think him, the way he shows the emotions has had a huge impact on how the boys have been this season. I think obviously from the huge highs, then to the lows, and now we're starting to climb back up again. Listen, hats off to him. I think he's been brilliant. He really has. He's extremely highly thought of in the northeast of Scotland, and I think he's got Aberdeen back on track, got them in a final, chasing down third place. Would you have been as happy looking up in the middle of sort of November? Probably not. But it's. Like as Shinnie had touched on, there's nothing better than a last-minute winner. And I think the touch from Paul Vara is ultimately the one that makes, obviously, Gordon make the save, that falls to Daba's feet. Otherwise, it's just another cross that's been cleared, because that's what it was. It was a story of that. There's far too many crosses going in, almost lazy crosses, and which the centre-halves were eating up. But it was. Do you know what? They had to work really hard for this. Really, really hard.
They did, and Daba enjoying his moment there in the sun. What about Hearts? Where does this leave him? We spoke pre-match about the importance of Neil Critchley getting a result, not to save the season, but to give the fans something to cling on to after a bottom 6 finish in the league. Where does this leave them?
Well, I mean, had the performance been very poor and Aberdeen had blown them away, then I think there would have been serious question marks. I think the performance level and the way that they've actually lost the game, it doesn't add the same level of pressure on there. What I would say is that, where was that performance before? You think last week against Motherwell, such a massive game, the intensity just wasn't there. It was here in spades today. Moving forward, there's still question marks, but the same, as I said, level of pressure off of what would have been a poor performance and losing the game. I don't think that's there as much, but as sort of days drift by, I think there will still be big questions that the supporters and those that are around the club asking. And still waiting to win that big game. Yes, yeah, absolutely. I mean, but I do think that with the level of performance there, it doesn't have the same impact in terms of, they've lost another big game. Because it was good for Hearts in large spells. The second half is completely different. It's a different game because of the sending off as well. But the bigger picture, there's still some serious question marks that are lingering over the club, and the board have to come up with the answers. Neil Critchley's got to come up with the answers in the last 5 games as well, because we move on to the next game. We've got obviously the fixtures are out, and we've got to be looking at these last 5 games and finding some answers, because if they go into those games and come in with poor performances and results are not great, then you better believe, forget about today, it just pressure ramps up even more. So those last 5 games in the league are massive games for Hearts, really big.
Yeah, that's for Hearts. Massive for Aberdeen as well, Andy, as they chase that European spot as well. What about the game tomorrow, St Johnstone against Celtic? How do you feel that one's going to unfold?
Well, I think St Johnstone will look to impact the game as much as possible. They will. The game plan won't change an awful lot. I think that since Simo Valakari's come in, he's got a certain playing style he likes to stick to regardless of the opponent. So I think they'll still stick to that tomorrow. Yes, it'll be tough. I think they'll have to soak up obviously a lot of pressure. And when they get the opportunities, whether it's set plays like the home game, then they need to take advantage. But I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely, we all are. Thank you very much for your company this afternoon. So Aberdeen are through to the Scottish Cup final. May the 24th is in their calendar. Who will they meet? We've just been talking about it, St Johnstone or Celtic. Join us tomorrow to find out from 2:30.